What up, gang? Carolina Jackpot time coming at you. It is Tuesday afternoon. It also means it's December 5th, 2023. Hope everybody's having a great day. I am. Thank you very much for asking. Before we get started, if you are new around here, please give consideration to staying true around here. And by that, I mean subscribe to the Carolina Jackpot YouTube channel. And also click that little bell so you will know when Carolina Jackpot posts a video. If you enjoy the content over here, please hit this video with a thumbs up. I would definitely appreciate that. Today, I just want to get into a variety of topics. We'll talk a little bit of South Carolina Gamecocks football and also, a little bit of Clemson, a little bit of Tennessee, and where we're going from there. First of all, Dabo has made some changes on his staff. He's officially hired former Ole Miss head coach Matt Luke as his offensive line coach, and he has hired former South Carolina Gamecock player and coach who's been all over the NFL and college football, Chris Rumpf, as a defensive ends coach for the Taters. This is kind of impressive to me in that this is what I would like for, excuse me, I'm driving, so I can't really look in the camera all the time here, guys, sorry. This is what I would like to have seen from Shane Beamer, is some more quick, fast, decisive action. And this comes, basically a week removed from the end of the regular season with Dabo, which lets me know that he had these plans in place a long time ago. He's probably already reached out to these guys at least a month ago and probably already had this ready to go. And I'm sure he did it after losing to Miami, losing to NC State. He's losing ground. He's losing games that he should be winning against teams that Clemson's better than. It's kind of refreshing, and I don't really, have a whole lot of positive things to always say about the Clemson program, and I'll give Dabo his credit when it's deserved. He's showing that he's an experienced head coach. He's staying well ahead of the game, and he knows what he needs to do before things just totally go off the rails. He let these other cats finish out the season. He knew where he wanted to make changes. He made changes. So he probably already knew he was going to be landing Matt Luke, because this guy was retired. He took it off after the 2021 season, and he hasn't coached in a couple of years. He probably knew that this guy was going to be his next offensive line coach back when he was, 4-4, before they even went on that little winning streak to end the season. That's what the kind of things I would like to see from Shane Beamer. Some thinking ahead, some methodical planning. And I'm not saying that he doesn't do it or that he doesn't want to do it, but you haven't shown me anything yet. We're a week removed from a 5-7 season. You just ended the season 5-7. You have a losing record. You're not going to a bowl game. You have staff changes that need to be made. Any fan with eyeballs, a brain, and senses that function can tell that your coaching staff is not what it needs to be, because your players are not being developed into what they need to be developed into. But here we sit on Tuesday, 9-10 days removed from the end of the regular season, from the end of the Clemson game, and you've done nothing. You have done nothing. Meanwhile, Dabo had a winning season, and he's made these changes already, and he probably already had them in place because he knew where his deficiencies are. Do you even know where your deficiencies are? I don't know. I honestly do not know. But I can tell you one thing. You need a new defensive coordinator. You need a new defensive coordinator. I don't care what happened the last 3 games of the season. We changed it to 3-3-5, and we held Clemson's terrible offense without a touchdown. We held Vanderbilt's terrible offense to 6 points. I don't care. That to me was too little too late. Too little too late from Clayton White. You know, when you're giving up, 500 yards of offense to Jacksonville State, and I don't know how many exactly it was. I don't have it here in front of me. It was enough to make me fucking pissed off. I know that much. When you do that, when you give up 5 touchdowns, 5 at home to Florida and Graham Mertz, and 2 field goals to Sugar Smack. Place kicker for Florida, his name's Trey Smack. If you wonder, well, that comes from the live stream that I did for that game, where I was just a little bit upset. I just got a little bit upset during that game. Not too much. Just real upset. You know, I was mad. You gave up over 30. You give 30 points to Texas A&M, another team that had a below average offense. But we've done nothing to make any changes here. He needs to go, and your offensive line, that staff that you got there, the little thing we got going on with Lonnie Teasley, the guy who's big buddies with the former offensive line coach Greg Atkins, who had to kind of step away because he had some health issues, but he still hangs around and is part of the program. To me, Teasley needs to be relieved of his duties, and Atkins needs to be, hey man, we appreciate what you did, but appreciate you just not coming around the program that much anymore. And it is what it is. This is a big time business. You need to make some big time decisions. People talk about Dabo Loggins and how awful of an offensive coordinator he was last year, and what a terrible play caller he was. Well, you may think that, but I will definitely tell you he was a better play caller than Marcus Satterfield ever thought about being. And the deficiencies with that offensive line kind of masked any kind of play calls that you may have seen from him. Now, in the Clemson game, I agree there was not a lot of creativity there. So that kind of pissed me off a little bit. You were playing with house money. You were playing against a team that wasn't scoring. You needed a couple of big plays, and you could have won that ball game, because they weren't going to do anything to combat it because they couldn't score. And it's not so much what our defense did; it's what their offense didn't do. They couldn't move the ball. But just getting away from that, their defensive line totally dominated South Carolina's offensive line. So in that game especially, who knows what he actually had called as far as plays go, because you never got to see it materialize. And you also saw that in several other games. You saw it in the Mizzou game. You saw it in the Texas A&M game. South Carolina's offensive line totally getting dominated. You saw it to a large degree in the North Carolina game. You gave up 9 sacks in that game. Yeah, everybody wants to talk about how decimated the offensive line was with injuries. Well, you gave up 9 sacks to UNC. You're never as healthy as you were in your first game, right? Am I not right on that? We got healthier as the year went on. Maybe so if you had a rash of injuries right at the beginning, but you're never as healthy as you're going to be in the first game. So what do you blame all that on? I'm tired of excuses and piss poor play. That's just bottom line. That's just bottom line. Tired of excuses, tired of piss poor play up front. Now, I think South Carolina's defensive line had a decent season, especially a decent second half of the season. Could it have been better? Yes. But you can tell that Travian Robertson, former Gamecock, is just essentially a much better defensive line coach than former D-line coach Jimmy Lindsey was. The one who ran off to LSU to join Brian Kelly's staff. Well, look at LSU's defense. What'd that look like this year? Looked like homemade shit. Jimmy Lindsey's probably a big part of that. So they need to make some changes up front on the offensive side of the football. And then Dabo Loggins, I would think, needs to be given a strong verbal to hold those people accountable as well. Because terrible offensive line play is also on him. Yeah, I know he doesn't directly coach the offensive line, but that position group does fall under his hierarchy, and he's the offensive coordinator. Juice Wells, former Gamecock who entered the transfer portal a couple of days ago. It's rumored that he's going to be visiting Tennessee this weekend. Well, I'm going to tell you what. If he ends up becoming a Tennessee Vol, if you thought South Carolina hated them right now, you just wait until he signs with them. If you thought Juice Wells was universally disliked, and he's pretty well disliked by a lot of the Gamecock fan base, there wasn't a whole lot of people telling him, go be great, go be great. That's what they do with these bench warmers and pine setters who didn't really see any action. The young man Landon Sampson, the wide receiver from out of Texas, who really just didn't blossom into a whole lot in his, where he put it up on Twitter that he was joining the portal. Everybody's like, go be great, young man, go ball out somewhere, go do this, do that. You'll always be a Gamecock. People wasn't writing that to Juice Wells, and the large part of the reason is because he took that big NIL bag from South Carolina, and he didn't play this year. He was injured. I think it legitimately was injured the first half of the season. There's a lot of talk and a lot of speculation that he was in a position where he could have played a lot the second half of the season, and he chose not to. So that's why a lot of people don't like him, and especially if you'd given your money that you worked hard for to the Garnet Trust or whatever NIL collective they have, and then he doesn't play, but yet he takes the money. Okay, well, to that point, what's he supposed to do? Give it back? I mean, it's unregulated, like a lot of things with this NIL are. There's no groundwork. There's nothing concrete to cover a lot of the weird situations, or maybe situations that aren't so weird, that pop up with this stuff. This whole NIL thing and these NIL collectives it just all seems shady to me. It seems shady. And I'm not throwing any kind of accusations out against anyone. I would not do that. But think about this. They're constantly needing money. They're constantly wanting more and more money, asking you to give to this so we can buy more players, so we can buy better players, so we can get better players out of the portal, so we can keep so-and-sos out of the portal. But you never, if you're giving money to this, you don't know where your $500 went. It just goes into the collective. You don't know if, this some of it went in Tonka's bag, or some of it went in Jim Bob's bag, or some of it went over here. You don't know where it went. And they're always acting like we don't have enough. Who's to say that some of that money couldn't be getting skimmed off? Does it really have a firm accounting and checks and balances system in place? Does it? Or could it just be, some of it goes in this one's bag, some of it goes in this one's bag, some of it goes in this one's bag, and some of it goes in my pocket? You don't know. And that's the problem I have with it. And that's a problem that I have, and that I would be just very skeptical to give money to it. And me also am in the position where I'm not giving any money to anything like that until I start to see a better product on the field. And we might not see a better product on the field till people like me and the other common fan out there start to dump some money into this thing. So it's like a catch-22, and we're just constantly, just butting our heads up against a wall. What do we do? And it's not just at South Carolina. It's all across the country. It's everywhere. This is it's a mess. And something needs to be lassoed in somewhat, and some kind of structures put in place to it, because right now it's the, as they call it, wild west, and just a lot of unknowns with a lot of that stuff. So Juice Wells going to Tennessee. We'll see if he goes up there. We'll see what happens. From what I've heard, everything points to that he was going to end up at a Texas Longhorn. However, if that were true, when he entered the portal, there's a no contact clause or something that you can put on yourself. He hadn't done that. So, the Texas thing may be just a strong rumor, but he's also leaving it open for, whatever other kind of bag he might possibly could get. But I could see a wide receiver like him who has a ton of talent, who has really good hands, has a ton of speed, has good field vision. He's got all of it. I mean, he can run the routes. He's smart. He has it all. I could see him ending up in a Josh Heupel offense. That would be probably a lot of fun for a player like Juice. And I, quite frankly, don't know that they've had anyone there that has exactly the kind of dynamic that he provides. They did have Jalen Hyatt. He was a smaller receiver, though. Juice is a bigger kid. Jalen Hyatt had a ton of speed. Cedric Tillman was another one who may have been a little bit more in the mold of a Juice Wells, but we'll see how all that shakes out. I really hope he doesn't end up there because that's not going to be a pretty situation. And unfortunately, he's got a year to play. He's actually got 2 years to play. He ain't going to play no more after next year, especially if he goes out and has an excellent year, which he will. He will. If he plays the entire year, there's no way he won't. He'll end up in the league in 2025, and South Carolina won't get their shot at him. But that would be that would be fun, and it's probably best that they don't. Probably best that they don't. If that is indeed what happens, because I could see that being kind of an ugly situation too, or maybe not. Maybe I just read too much into it, but it definitely would be an interesting one, and one that a lot of people would be running to the television set to make sure that they didn't miss. What else? Clemson hires Matt Luke. He was the inspiration for this thumbnail too. By the way, the dog peeing, the player in the peeing dog position, if you'll remember, in his last game as Ole Miss head coach, which was the 2019 Egg Bowl, which he lost. That was done right at the end of the game. That young man got an unsportsmanlike penalty call for that. So the extra point was backed up an extra 15 yards, and Ole Miss missed it. And Mississippi State won that Egg Bowl. His story was probably already written at Ole Miss then, because they weren't very good when he was head coach there. In fact, they were terrible. But I'm sure that didn't do anything to help his cause out, that he had no more discipline and structure in place on his team to have some crazy crap like that going out. But we'll see how it all shakes out. South Carolina definitely needs to get Shane Beamer needs to get his head out of his ass and get some decent coaches in there. Case closed. Right, not really any more questions on that deal. So anyway, I'll keep on providing you guys with college football content. I will keep on letting you know if anything big and exciting happens. South Carolina's got a big basketball game coming up tomorrow night. It doesn't look like Carolina Jackpot will be going to that game, but they do go to Little John Coliseum to take on the 7-0 Clemson Tigers. That would be the 7-0 South Carolina Gamecocks. And the 7-0 Clemson Tigers, they're ranked, I think, number 23, that being Clemson, pronoun boy. It's going to be a really, really tough test for South Carolina. They're not going to be favored. I don't think that they win. Going to Little John has always been kind of tough for South Carolina. We never say never. Lamont Paris has built a pretty good roster with a lot of transfer players and a few pieces that he's gotten in there from high school, and I think that we may see this starting to shake out as the right decision may have been made down there to let Frank Martin go and bring somebody else in. You're not always going to have a great first season. He had an abysmal campaign in 2022-23. It couldn't have gotten much worse. G.G. Jackson was like the only bright spot South Carolina had out there, but they lost him to the NBA, and we have slowly but quietly gotten better without him there. I think he was kind of a distraction in a lot of ways. We're sitting here 7-0. South Carolina will, by the end of December, have eclipsed last year's win total already. So this is a big ball game tomorrow night for sure. Clemson wants revenge on South Carolina. South Carolina beat them early in the season last year. That was one of the few wins that we had last year. And probably, other than winning at Kentucky, it was probably South Carolina's best win of the season. They won at home against Clemson in a game that eventually, more than likely, kept Clemson out of the NCAA tournament last year. It kept them out of the big dance. Doesn't really matter though. They went to the NIT and got beat down in the first round by a directional Kentucky school. So, but still, they were denied the opportunity, and the Gamecocks denying it to them probably makes it even worse. So they'll be looking for some revenge on that deal. You can make sure of that. So we'll be live streaming our show tomorrow night. The game is during the time of our live show, so expect me and Rob Sanders to be going at it a little bit over that one. But I will see you guys later on. I appreciate it. Peace. I'm out of here. Still go Gamecocks. Spurs up, my toes up. Woo!